Welcome back to the Company Show. We tell it is and we don't care you feel. And we have another 2026 schedule preview to get to today. I've already done the majority of other SEC teams. I've only got two more videos to make, two more teams to make a video about. So if you are curious and checking out those other ones, go to my channel. They will be there. But today we got none other than the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the little Bulldogs of the SEC. What did they do last season? Well, 2025 Mississippi State went 5-8 overall, 1-7 in the SEC, but they were able to make a bowl game. The Duke's Mayo Bowl, they're able to make due to the fact that there not being enough 6-win teams. Typically, in order to make a bowl game to become bowl eligible, you got to go 6-6. Last year, Mississippi State did not go 6-6. They went 5-7. But because there's not enough 6-win teams, they found their way in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, taking on Wake Forest, where unfortunately they would lose, finishing off the regular season last year at 5-8. Did, however, beat Alcorn State, Northern Illinois, Southern Miss, Arizona State, and you had a close win against Arkansas. You also had a very close loss to Florida, but you still lost that game. So that's a little bit about last year. What do you have returning? Well, for this season, you do have a couple of key core defensive players coming back on the defensive side of the ball. You got your linebacker, Tyler Lockhart, Zakir Tillman, safety, Isaac Smith, lineman, Calvin Dinkins, and your pass rusher, Will Wilson. Say that 3 times fast. So a couple of very important key defensive players returning this year that do have in-game playing experience. I think that's going to be much needed because I really do think we're going to get to the schedule soon for this Mississippi State Bulldog. But this is a gauntlet. This is a gauntlet. So the more returning pieces you have, the more experience you have coming back on this team, the better. Offensive side. Well, let's start with the quarterback. Quarterback, you got Kamario Taylor. Kamario Taylor is how you pronounce his first name? Kamario, I believe. Yeah, we'll go with Kamario Taylor. He comes back as your starting quarterback. He will get the start this year. He did take over late last season, so he did not play every single game last year. He was not the starter last year. He took over late last season, 2025, against Arkansas, where he did get the win in that game. But he would go on to also have 4 losses. So last season, he finished the season at 1-4 overall. So not the best record. We look at his stats, and you look at his stats through the air. Again, nothing great. Not horrible, but also not too optimistic about what he did last year through the air. 55.8 completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interceptions. So like I said, not the best. Definitely he's going to need to improve big time. They're going to need to really rely on him to improve. But one thing, if you're a Mississippi State Bulldog fan, to have a little bit of optimism to carry into the season is you look at his numbers and what he was able to do on the ground. 458 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns in 5 games. That's very impressive. That is very impressive. Kid is able to use his legs. They're going to need to really be able to rely on that, improve on that going into this season, because when we get to the schedule, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So that one thing to kind of hold on to, can he improve on that? Can you use that as your strength? It's basically kind of like his superpower. A little bit, kind of. Also, Jeff Lebby returns as head coach. He's been okay. 7-18 overall, 1-15 in the SEC. Really bad SEC in-conference record. Just downright brutal. He took over in 2024 where he went 2-10. He did improve last season. So from 2024 to 2025, he did improve. Like I said, 2-10 his first year, 5-8 in his second year. Can he keep that trend going and improve this year? Maybe. Defensive coordinator, Zach Arnett. I do like Zach Arnett as a defensive coordinator. If you know any history about Mississippi State, recent history, or if you're a fan of Mississippi State, you'll know this. He was your defensive coordinator from 2020 to 2022. He did take over the head coaching job in 2023, and it just didn't work out. He was dismissed in November of 2023 and was not with the program through all the entire season of 2024. But Jeff Lebby did bring him back. Jeff Lebby, whatever, did bring him back as the defensive coordinator for the 2025 season. And he is still the defensive coordinator going into the 2026 season. I do like him. We'll see what he's able to bring to this program because, man, it's tough. It's tough. They're really going to need a solid defense, a sound defense, and they're going to need their quarterback to step up big time. Looking at their spring game, they didn't have a traditional spring game. They had a weird 100-play scrimmage where they didn't even keep stats or score, so it made it very difficult to look at what happened. I mean, you always have to I always say when it comes to numbers and what you see in the spring game, take it away with a grain of salt. But they had this weird 100-play scrimmage where they didn't even keep stats or score, so I wasn't really able to look at much, if anything. So still a lot of questions for this team going into the 2026 season. We're dead middle of fall camp. So the time I'm recording this video, they are slam in the middle of the fall camp. But so that's what happened last season. That's what they have returning. That's what they lost. What are my questions for this Bulldog team going into this new season? Well, first off, right off the bat, can Kamario Taylor be the guy for this team? He's going to need to improve a lot, and he is going to be playing against tough competition. I think with somebody that's still so young and has he does have experience. I mean, he played 5 games last year. So, and he's been through the full offseason of being that guy, knowing you're that guy. So there's a lot to take away from that. But can he be that guy? Can he be that guy for this team? Can he get wins against some of this competition? I think they're going to really need to be able to rely on his legs. I do like that. I read off that stat line earlier. I think that's going to need to be a key factor when it comes to their success for the 2026 season. So that's my question. My first question beyond can he be the guy? Second question, can this defense improve under Zach Arnett? They're going to need to be able to rely on their defense. I think there's going to be a couple of games where it might be low scoring. Your offense might struggle. Can this defense prevent opponents from throwing 24, 28, 30-plus points on you? So can this defense improve under Zach Arnett? I do like Zach Arnett as a defensive coordinator, so we'll see if they can improve. And then my third and final question, which is really just more kind of looking at the state of the program, is this the last year of Jeff Lebby as the head coach of Mississippi State if it's a bad season? Me personally, I don't think so. I think that if you're Mississippi State, you look at the schedule, let's say you go 2-10. That's the absolute worst. You got to understand who you are as a program with realistic expectations. So if this program goes out, this team goes out and they have another bad season where they go 5-7 or worse, 4-8, 3-9, 2-10, you get the point. I don't think it would be very beneficial to fire your head coach because then who is going to want to come in and coach this program? You're not promoting anybody within that I can think of. Definitely not Zach Arnett. You've already tried that. That experiment didn't work out. So who would you bring in if you were to let him go? There's been some the rumor mill that's a possibility. I don't think it is. I think if they fire him, let's say Mississippi State flat out goes 2-10. If they fire him, I think it's a mistake. Seriously. Because I don't know. Mississippi State is not going to compete for the conference championship or playoff year in and year out. Now, they very well could have a breakout year where they go 9-3, 10-2. If they get the right pieces and get the right transfer portal win, get a solid quarterback, they might make a shot at a playoff. But they're not going to be competing year in and year out with the big dogs of the sport, given a lot of factors, given the NIL, given the buy-in from the administration. I mean, hell, given where the university is at in the country. It's in Mississippi, the middle of nowhere. But that's a tangent for another day. Point being is that is possible. That is a question. It's a question I have for this team Do I think that that would happen? No, but it's quite possible. So let's jump to the schedule. What I'm going to do is run through the schedule really quickly, tell you who they're playing and when they're playing, and after I'll give my takeaways about the schedule, and then I'll give my prediction at the very end with who I have them winning and losing. So you get things kicked off on September 5th against LA Monroe. You'll win that game. After LA Monroe, you do have to go on the road September 12th to take on Minnesota. So this is the home and home series that you have with Minnesota. You got to go to them this year. After Minnesota, you do have back-to-back road games. September 19th, you got to go on the road to take on South Carolina, your first SEC team. After South Carolina, you are back home on September 26th to take on Mizzou, and then staying at home on October 3rd to take on Bama. After Bama, you do get a bye week on October 10th. Coming out of your bye week on October 17th, you got to go on the road to take on LSU. After LSU, on October 24th, you come back home to take on the Oklahoma Sooners, and then going right back on the road on Halloween, October 31st, to take on Texas. Very tough stretch of games right there. After the road game at Texas, you are back home on November 17th, or November 7th, my bad, to take on Vandy. And then staying home on November 14th to take on Auburn. And then your last home game of the season on November 21st to take on Tennessee Tech. And then to round things out at the end of the year, going on the road on November 27th to take on your in-state rival, Ole Miss, no longer ran by Lane Kiffin. So that's your schedule. What are my immediate takeaways from the schedule? Well, this is very tough. I mentioned it in the beginning of this video. This is a very tough schedule. They miss out on playing Georgia. They don't have to play the Dogs, but they arguably play 5 of the best 6 teams in the SEC. Alabama, I think, has the potential of being one of the best 6 in the SEC, top half. On the road at LSU, top half of the SEC, top 6 probably. On the road at Texas, I think they're going to be one of the best, if not the best in the SEC, if not the country. Oklahoma, I think they're top half of the SEC. On the road at Ole Miss, again, another top half of the SEC. This is a brutal schedule. A brutal schedule. And you look at your road games and who you have to go on the road, there's not a single easy road game here. You look at Minnesota, and while, yes, Minnesota is not on the level as Texas is, but you very well could lose that game. It's a tough game for Mississippi State. On the road to South Carolina, again, I don't think South Carolina is one of the big dogs of the SEC. That's a tough place to play. You got to go there. And then obviously on the road at LSU, on the road at Texas, on the road at Ole Miss. This is a brutal schedule from basically start to finish. Good luck, is all I can say to Mississippi State Bulldog fans. You're in for a long season. Have a couple of drinks ready to go. Your bye week, my second takeaway is your bye week does come at a good point in the season. It's after the Alabama game, right before you go on the road to take on LSU. Maybe you get that extra week to prepare. You can pull off some magic on the road against LSU. I don't think so, but so good place for a bye week. But I mean, overall, it's just a tough schedule. My third takeaway is I'm really struggling to find a spot for an upset win, whether it be on the road or at home. I mean, even at home. I've already went through the road games at Minnesota, at South Carolina, at LSU, at Texas, and at Ole Miss. Those are your 5 road games. I think you win one of them, maybe 2. I look at your home slate games of where you're going to be an underdog, and I struggle finding a win for you. You'll beat LA Monroe. You'll beat Tennessee Tech. I'm not worried about those 2. But you look at the teams that you will be an underdog at home. At Mizzou, can you beat them? I mean, you will be an underdog against Mizzou. Can you pull off an upset win there? At the end of the year, at home against Auburn, can you get a win against them? You'll be an underdog then. I mean, I'm struggling to find upset wins. So if you're a Mississippi State Bulldog, you probably don't want to hear that, but it's true. So what's the floor for this team? Well, the floor for this team is 2-10. I mean, it's very possible that you could lose all those games that I just mentioned. I think you beat LA Monroe, and I think you beat Tennessee Tech. I think even if you have a bad day on both of those days, you find a way to beat those 2 teams. but it is very possible you lose the rest of your games. That is the absolute floor for this team. What's the ceiling? I think the ceiling, given the schedule and given the questions I have for this Bulldog team, I think it's 6-6. Now that would be a slight improvement from last year. You went 5-7 last year in the regular season. 6-6 would be an improvement. You would actually make a bowl game and not have to find your way backdoored in. But it's just tough. So 6-6, I think, is the ceiling. What's my prediction? 4-8. 4-8. And I get it. If you're a Mississippi State Bulldog fan, you probably don't want to hear that. You're probably not excited about a 4-8 season. It is a set step back from last year, but it's just tough. It's a tough schedule. I think you beat LA Monroe and Tennessee Tech. I've already said that. I think you actually get a win against Vandy at home. I do think Vandy is still going to be good. They might even be favored in this game against you, but I think I'm not as high on Vandy at all as other people are. I mean, my Vandy stock has went from here. I've never even had Vandy stock. It has been so low. I think Vandy's going to struggle this year. I think you get a win at home against them. And I actually think you go on the road to beat Minnesota. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think you're able to pull one out on the road against Minnesota. I can't find any other wins. Potentially, you can go on the road and beat South Carolina. Shane Beamer, this is quite possibly Shane Beamer's last year as a head coach for South Carolina. Now, if this game was later in the season, I actually would take you to beat South Carolina. But the fact that this game is the third game of the year, I think Shane Beamer will still be the head coach. I think you lose there. Maybe you beat Mizzou. Maybe you beat Auburn. But it's really hard for me to pull the trigger on giving you a win against one of those teams. So that's my prediction. I've got the Mississippi State Bulldogs going 4-8 in the 2026 season. A little bit of a setback year. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you agree, disagree, if I don't know ball, whatever, leave it down there. Other than that, over and out.